Geometry shapes all buildings, no matter how humble. In the 2007 text named Architectural Geometry by the authors Helmut Pottmann, Andreas Asperl, Michael Hofer, and Axel Killian, they all explain throughout their work how geometry lies at the core of the architectural design process. It is omnipresent, from the initial form-finding stages to the actual construction. As you can see, the optical glasshouse is a structure which truly embodies architectural geometry, as its applied geometry, analysis, and configuration all contribute to the building's design principles. Although the optical glasshouse provides a seen, tranquil experience from its overall aura, the most important architectural aspect is the building's geometry, as it ultimately divides the space and makes it aesthetically pleasing for viewers. In my most recent project, assigned in my architecture studio class, our task was to create a makerspace area on the building site located next to Lee Hall. This project forced me to analyze the area given and create an appropriate design that would work well with the site, its surroundings, and its scenery. This allowed me to gain insight on how to apply geometric principles into my designs. Today, I want to talk to you all about the importance of the optical glass building's geometric design principles, such as its spatial orientation, its movement, and its unity. Let's begin by looking at the building's spatial orientation. The space inside of a building is fundamental to the creation of its composition. The space, considering this building is located directly on a busy street, the architect placed a garden and an optical glass facade on the side overlooking the street in order for people to experience tranquility despite the location. The building's open atmosphere and exquisite use of space contributes to this serenity. Spatial relationships between forms help define their interaction. For example, in my most recent project, it was essential for me to organize my space on the geometry of the site into one recognizable whole. The architectural value should always be understood in terms of spatial value. For example, Mr. Bruno Zevi, in the 1974 issue of Architecture as Space, states that the essence of architecture and the main element, which should be underlined, does not lie in the material limitation placed on spatial freedom, but in the way space is organized into a meaningful form through this process of limitation. Now that we have looked at the building's spatial orientation, I want to discuss the building's movement. The optical glass house is constructed in a way that allows for effortless movement throughout the building's walls. For example, the building possesses various thoughtful pathways and stairways to make the building's formation flow. This is essential to the building's geometric design because the purpose of this area is to obtain a peaceful environment, which would not be the case if people were flustered and confused in the space. A building's geometric principles, such as spatial orientation and movement, are the main design principles that allow for the space to obtain unity. Hopefully, you have learned a little bit more about the importance of a building's geometry today. The optical glass house is a structure that truly embodies order and architecture as space. A building's space is supposed to be designed in a way that forms an integrated whole by obtaining a coherent structure. In the 2007 third edition of Architecture, Form, Space, and Order by Francis D.K. Ching, he states that architectural order is created when the organization of parts make visible their relationships to each other and their structure as a whole. He furthers this explanation by stating that when these relationships are perceived as mutually reinforcing and contributing to the single nature of the whole, then a conceptual order exists, an order that may well be more enduring than transient perceptual visions. By looking at space as architecture and the way in which a building flows, you can see why I have such a strong interest in creating thoughtful designs that consist of these important elements. The most important architectural aspect is the building's geometry, as it ultimately divides the space and makes it aesthetically pleasing for viewers. Believers say that when we recognize geometric principles and build upon them, we create dwellings that comfort and inspire. Thank you.